Good morning, everyone. My name is Philippe Thiffeault. I'm the sales director at VoIP.ms, and today I'm with Fred Posner, senior VoIP engineer and VoIP consultant at LDO Communication. And today we will discuss the API ban project, which is a concept to allow telecommunication provider like VoIP.ms to gather list of IP address that can be harmful for your network. Um, Fred is the expert in the subject, so I will let Fred explain all in detail. So, Fred, the floor is yours.
Morning, everyone. So APIBAN is a free service, and it's there to help protect your SIP server, whether you're a carrier or just an end user, from unwanted SIP traffic. And the bottom line is that we have globally deployed honeypots throughout the world, hence globally, and it's mainly sponsored by the company I work with, LOD, and we have facilitated a method of capturing the traffic and then reporting back to it and then making that information available in as close to real time as possible. And we are doing that just to keep servers free from unwanted traffic as much as possible.
Can you share a little bit detail of the history of the project, how it started, and what was the fire starter of this?
Sure. So I try to be active in the open source VoIP community. I'm associated with the Comma Ilio project and have been going to most of the conventions such as AstraCon, ClueCon, Comma Ilio World, IT Expo, things like that for um, way too long now. Yeah. So for well over 10 years. And I've been doing this for about 20. And the software, of course, is just over 20 years old. So at these conferences, we, especially as voice over IP started getting more and more prevalent, we were always talking about, wow, you could put a server up online and start getting attacked almost immediately. And it became a joke sometimes where, all right, that's just how we're testing to see if our firewall's open or configure it properly because we'll start seeing some bad traffic. We've talked to Sandra Gauci with um, Enable Security, who's very famously provided SIP Vicious, that, hey, thank you. You really help me know if I have a SIP server up and running because I see these friendly scanners all over the place. And we always talked in some of these conferences about wouldn't it be a great way if we could just somehow share this information where, hey, I'm getting hit by this IP, I'm getting hit by this IP, let's try to share it. And nothing would happen. And then we'd wait till the next conference and then we'd all talk, wow, that would be a great idea if we could share this kind of information and make a block list. And again, and the cycle just repeated year after year after year. So right around the pandemic times, I found myself with a good month of just space to
Free
do
time.
something. Yeah, and I said, okay, well, I could do that. I first started this as just a fun test of some of Comma Ilio's capabilities with hash tables and things like that, and then gradually made it a real project and was using it to work on my Go or Golang skills and things like that, and just started deploying them and coming up with a central way of having these honeypots reported. And then because I'm active in open source, we thought that the best way to provide this information was just free. So LOD decided to do a main sponsorship. We had some other companies come in like Clearly IP, Drachio, or Jambones, and that Sapiens came in and helped us with some of the funding for honeypots, things like that. Ivan Yarko, who is a friend of mine and a very good SIP engineer, has also done a tremendous amount of work on this project, and we've just been uh, going along now for a while and providing this information to as many people as we can.
In terms of we already discussed it, but I'm sure the audience will be curious to know these questions as I did. Um, what's the metrics? How many IP are banned and or how many attack it's expected to prevent? Is it something you are measuring? Is it something that you want to disclose? Or maybe is it what's the overall matrix that you can share with us?
Sure. The number of IP addresses that are blocked changed, every minute almost. Right before we came online here, I looked at the number and it was just over 1,100 IPs currently active right now. When we say an IP is active, when one of the honeypots detects traffic from an IP, it becomes active and it stays active for 7 days and then it automatically flushes out. Some of these IPs then do another attack and they can be relisted, within seconds of expiring out. So we have lots of IPs that are consistently active, um, whereas technically they phase out and then reactivate. And then there are some new ones that get activated all the time. The most I remember seeing at any given time was right around 4,000. And about a year and a half ago, there was um, a huge influx of IPs coming from one of the private VPN servers that were just being used to scan a tremendous amount of SIP servers out there. And what we're looking for with this type of attack is, SIP traffic, of course, as well as any traffic that could be targeting SIP servers. So not so much provisioning traffic or things like that, but DNS sent to SIP ports, TCP on SIP ports. We do look at TCP, TLS, UDP, common SIP ports that are used for FreeSwitch and Kamailio and Asterisk, as well as most other SIP servers. And we look for anything. The common aspect right now that we're seeing is registration relay attacks. So servers that are done as open relays for registration are getting onslaughted, and so we see a tremendous amount of that type of traffic right now. In fact, in the last 2 days, over 400 IPs just using Separator, which is an SBC out there, which is we've tried to get them to close the open relays, but a tremendous amount of their versions are just susceptible to this open relay registration attack.
So the concept of the APIBAN and the Honeypot that you are distributing everywhere a little bit around the world is that you are mimicking any SIP switch, VoIP gateway, SBCs, PBXs. Is it a mimic, or is it like if you're deploying a PBX that is not really active, however, that can receive the traffic, or is just a mimic of of this kind of appliance, of this kind of software?
There are many different ways that we handle the honeypot traffic. Some honeypots mimic PBX traffic. Some honeypots you would assume are a free PBX server or an Asterisk server that are online. Others might appear as a Cisco server or some other SIP. Some do not respond at all. They're just listening and will not respond whatsoever. They're just detecting the attacks and reporting on them. Others, are unidentifiable SIP servers or even endpoints. So we try to do a tremendous amount of variety, and with the open source tools that are out there, sorry, such as Kamailio, which is on the honeypots that I work with. Kamailio has been phenomenal to help deploy those. We try to do a variety of different responses so that it's not easily identifiable by those people sending traffic.
And how do you there's no, I know the answer, but it's kind of interesting for me to say it again here. How do you detect a false positive, and how do you define an attack? If a false positive is such a thing for
Right.
you.
So the only false positives have been me. So the only legitimate IPs that I know have been blocked have been me, and that's because I know where some of these honeypots are, and I was just testing it, and of course it worked, and identified me as being bad and blocked me, which is made it interesting when I had to help a client that had me blocked for a week for getting into their system. But these honeypots should receive no traffic whatsoever, and they're unknown. And we change the IPs so they should not receive any traffic. So false positives aren't um, a problem that we've had to deal with. We have had some legitimate small carriers listed, and they were using some of the like that separator and the other type of um, software, and they were vulnerable to open relay attacks. So it wasn't that they were falsely identified; they were being exploited and identified and blocked. And we've tried to work with them to resolve their issues so that the exploit no longer continues of their systems.
So a false positive is not something that that can be really existing, because if there's a traffic, it's because it was intended to be an attack on the Honeypot. So, um, however, let's say for whatever reason I'm using one of my competitor services, and I'm targeting for whatever reason I'm able to target one of the honeypot through one of my competitor networks. Is it possible to use this concept to harm a good set of IPs, like creating a false like a signalman? Is it is it I from what I understand, I don't think it's really possible unless you know where the honeypot are.
There are always concerns that we have, and so I said, we're not seeing problems with false positives, but we're always concerned about it, right? So being at this as long as we have been, we know that nothing is bulletproof, and so the goal on this project was quality of information. And so we don't want to have the most amount of IPs on a list. We're not looking for that. We want that you can trust this information and take it to the bank. So we want to make sure that if an IP is listed here, it's because it has legitimately sent bad traffic, and that IP is the legitimate source of it. It's not a forged IP. We're not dealing with people trying to attack others. We're assuming, and no offense to you guys, because you guys are a carrier, but we're assuming that all carriers are evil, and that they and that they will try to poison other carriers. All right, so we go with that assumption, and because of that, that's why we, in many carriers, including VoIPms, have been extremely generous in offering, hey, we would love to give you some server space or something like that. And we've made the decision not to accept it, just so that we don't have to deal with that kind of trust issue
A
of,
conflict,
oh,
it's a
okay.
conflict of interest that could happen
It,
here. It's a
it,
totally legit assumption. I don't by no means I think VoIPms would do such behavior. However, I think it's a fair assumption that you
we
have. And
we all know some carriers that would absolutely do that kind of thing, and so so it just makes it easy to do a blanket roll where we don't accept honeypots from people, so that we know that the IP addresses aren't known and can't be targets of to be manipulated.
if I'm not using your service, but my devices are compromised. I have I'm a not a carrier, but I'm a business owner, and I have my home PBX or SBCs, and my device are compromised. How can I know that my IPs are listed within your service? Is it a way you, to is it a way for me to figure out what's the
Right now, the only way for you to figure out that your IP is listed is to check it. And so the APIBAN has two main methods that people can check their IP. One is just a standalone Golang client, Go client that can run on your system on Linux, or well, technically you could do it on any system, but it's designed for IP tables. So, I mean, it's not going to work with Windows. But that client goes and automatically updates and flushes out the old IPs and keeps IP tables blocked at that level so that your system itself doesn't have to deal with the attack. So that, you know, your PBX or whatever SIP software that you're running on that box isn't even responding to it. It's just being blocked at the network level. We do not alert people when an IP is listed. And when again, the project is over 3 years old at this point. When it first started, I was actively trying to do that, and very active. DigitalOcean is a huge. They have one block where it's constantly in the top 5 subnets of attacks, and they just don't care. So in the hundreds and hundreds of alerts and trying to get people to respond when their IP is listed, I've received exactly 0 responses. So I just stopped wasting time on that effort.
Yeah, and so it's beneficial for either a service provider like VoIPms, but also as a business owner, if I have a good and I want to maintain a good telecommunication network, it would be beneficial for any type of user, even at the end user level, to use the service to protect, but also to understand that you're listed or not. I assume that the later would be very, very less frequent, of course, but at least to protect themselves, it's also beneficial for individual user, not residential, I don't think. But
and then like I said, so the first method, I didn't even say what the second method was, right? So the first method is that client that just does it by itself. The second method is the API portion of APIBAN is we have an API, and you can go and check a specific IP address. So you could go in there and check, let's say, if you had, a few IP addresses, you could check whatever IP addresses you'd want, or you can take the whole list. There's also some API responses that are designed to work with Cisco firewalls, Juniper firewalls, as well as PF and OpenSense firewall.
I guess you can even after that, whenever you gather the information in your own system, that you can make yourself a script to match if your IPs appear on that list, that you're getting notified right away. And let's say I have this in place and my stuff is compromised. 7 day can be quite long. Let's say I did what I have to do. I fixed the compromise issues. I did whatever I did, but within the first 2 days, how can I appeal my ban?
On APIBAN.org, which is our main website, there is contact information for us, and we've had people reach out to either our email or matrix room to request that they be removed. It's happened twice in 3 years. We've tested. One of those IPs was removed because they fixed it. The other one said that they removed it, but it didn't pass our test, so we didn't remove it.
But anyway, it will be re-enrolled probably within seconds, because if it's
No, I mean
constantly
we
attempt.
wouldn't remove. Our test showed that it was still active because we could test for whatever it was listed for because we keep a log of why was it listed. Was it listed because of an options or a register or something like that? Both of the cases that asked to be removed were open relays of registration attacks, so we just tested that and they still were, or one of them still was. The other one had resolved the problem. So I did go up and remove that IP from the system. It's an extremely manual process on our end, and it's happened again once in 3 years. If it were to be something that were to happen more often, then I'd automate it, but it hasn't. Right now, it's easier to just remove it manually than to write something to make it automatic.
Yeah, of course, for the frequency that it's happening anyway, you don't want to get into this. But who knows? Maybe your this project will end up being used by all the ISP in United States and Canada, all the service provider. Who
Yeah.
knows? Maybe at some point it's gonna be it will worth to have
I would love to
this.
see it get used by more, like Ubiquity or some of the other type of common firewalls or routers. It would be great if it could be done there because if we could get it done at the network level instead of being run on the SIP software itself, then that just becomes great.
Easier. That bring me to a question. It's related to SIP only. Now that you say it can be brought to the network level, is this concept could be used to other type of services? Is it something relevant to even have uh, uh, to think about it, or
There's been some requests recently for having this same type of activity done in Honeypots made for provisioning services. Especially NetSapiens, FreePBX, those type of systems that tend to have open uh, provisioning attacks and common aspects as well as GUI based attacks. Our our position is we would love to do that, but we'd probably need more funding just for the time necessary to do it. But it's definitely an idea that I very much like and would love to see integrated into the product in the future.
and it would be for the provisioning, it would be on eh, carrier level, on the end user level, who will benefit this?
Anyone running a server would benefit from it. So when you talk about, let's say, NetSapiens, where they have a lot of the provisioning attacks or seem to receive them, those are mostly small carrier, or not small, but I mean they're mostly carriers, whether they're small or large. There's definitely some large carriers running NetSapiens, as well as good sized businesses. Would benefit from that. But then you also see provisioning attacks hitting, let's say, free PBX or Fusion, and those could be much smaller organizations as well as carriers as well, because there's certainly carriers running both of those softwares. So the quick answer is I think carriers would benefit from it, but I also think a lot of end user small businesses or even home users that are running popular software would benefit from that type of list
Of
of information.
and new kind of implementations.
Yep.
And if it's probably an easy question for you and even for users, but uh, let's say I want to start. I want to start leveraging your services, your project today. What's the next step? How I'm doing it?
Sure. If you go to APIBAN.org, you can request an API ban key, or we call it an API key, and you just use that key either through API calls yourself, or you can download and install the client that we have, and make it automatic. So that way, and that's how the vast majority of people are using it. They're just using this open source client we have, and you put in your key and it just automatically runs and goes from there. There's zero cost to it. It costs you nothing. The goal is to keep it free for um, for everyone to use.
Yeah, yeah. I have another question about what's the knowledge that is required to use that? Is it specific uh developer knowledge? Is
I I think for I would say almost no knowledge is necessary depending on how you're doing it. So if you're doing it with, let's say, NetSapiens, they have it built into their product, so you don't really need much knowledge there. As well as with Jambones, they have it built into their deployments. If you wanted to do with our client, you really don't need a lot of expertise. But it's hard for me to tell because I've tried to make it as easy as possible, but you still need to go to GitHub, and some people are intimidated just going to GitHub. Um
I do.
so yeah, yeah, but I mean basically all you have to do is just download the executable and add your key. There's a script to do it for you, but you have to feel comfortable with at least going to a command line on Linux to install the product. Um, there's not just like a double click installer. So
Can we re
the knowledge that you need is basically just how to install it, just to use very basic Linux command line.
can we
Now, if
require you to can we hire
um,
LOD or you, or is it
yeah,
something
LOD would be more than happy to install it for people for a nominal fee, I'm sure. But we'd be more than happy to help people with it. If you are running, let's say, pfSense or OpenSense, we have tutorials for how you can integrate it directly into that router. And so that one you wouldn't really need any expertise whatsoever. And on, um, yeah, those are the major ones. If you're using Kamailio, we have tutorials on how to integrate it with Kamailio, and as well as OpenSIPs and some of the other popular softwares out there.
great? Great. Um, and you mentioned it several times that you want this project is intended to stay free, but I I have to ask why this is not monetized more than this. It's something needed. I think it's answering to a problematic. Um, is what's the logic of just giving it for free? You're taking a lot of time.
Yeah.
It's not like if it's an easy thing to develop from scratch. It's been 3 years that you're working on it. So
I mean, I gotta say, let me preface this with, I do like money. um, I mean, what's the Adam Sandler quote? I like money. I want more of it. You have it. I would like more of it. No, I would love to make money, and I'd love to make a lot more money. I don't want to make more money off of helping people keep secure from attacks. I just don't want that to be the way that I make money. Um, I, I've benefited greatly from open source software. I am not a programmer by any means, and I'm in awe for the last 20 years of being able in this community to meet such good programmers out there that have made incredible software like Kamailio, Asterisk, FreeSwitch, all of these systems that have helped people communicate all over the world. So to me, this is the way that we can give back. I don't want to make money off of that.
that's clear. That's um very honorable. I don't want to throw you too much flour, but I feel that it's a honorable meaning, and yeah, the goal is for you is to provide a service that is good for everybody, and
Yep.
at the end, it giving also a good set of exposure. It giving it's any open source project can bring you a good light. So it's
Yeah.
a
Hopefully
win-win
it will.
situation.
Yeah. Hopefully it will turn into other aspects. I mean, LOD's name is with it, so that, I mean, we clearly are a sponsor of of API ban ourselves. Um, it's just me being here. Everybody gets to say, "Hey, look, Fred does consulting on Camelio and FreeSwitch and Asterisk and things like that." But API ban is our way of giving back.
Right? Glad to hear. Do you have any additional information, anything that you would like to share about this that has not been said today?
I'm sure something will come to mind the second we're done. If you have any questions, apiban.org has um, a documentation on how the API works, as well as some videos describing how you can install it. There's also links to GitHub, which has the open source client, as well as another API that we put out there, so you can. It's your own local interface for IP tables. If you wanted that, we have something called IP tables API. It's extremely creatively. I'm not going to be able to say that word today, but it was named, uh, obviously, so you could just, let's say, run a curl statement and add and remove IPs from IP tables yourself. Just that there's IP tables API as well, which allows you to interface to a local IP tables with just curl statements,
Understand.
simple get statements to keep it very simple.
Great. Great. Thanks, Fred. It was very refreshing information. I did check pretty much all your video, so it's a simple thing, but still complex at the same time. It's it for somebody like me, like I'm not a developer at all. I'm working in the
Mhm.
SIP industry, the VoIP industry, and so on. So I can connect the dot for the concept, but um, having somebody to explain it in a simpler word, simpler information, it's uh, it's really much better than like for me to go on GitHub and trying to figure out
Yeah.
how this monkey is working, because for me GitHub, like I'm going there trying to understand all the tables and all that, and it's not how I'm gonna learn. It's really by vulgarization of information like you just did with us today. So it's very very much appreciated. So thanks again for all that.
My
Uh, how can people reach out to you? APBion.org.
Yeah, if you went to apiban.org, that's the main contact information for the project. If you needed me directly, it's qxork.com, and that's doesn't spell anything. It's just letters that you don't have to have trouble pronouncing. So qxork.com is my contact info.
It's where we can reach out to you. Perfect. Uh, just for the people that are not familiar too much with VoIPms, I just want to do a very short recap of who is VoIPms, if you allow me about 3 minutes. Perfect. So VoIPms, it's a Montreal-based voice over IP provider, a VoIP provider, founded in 2007. It's now our 15 years anniversary. We provide a phone number in more than 20,000 rate center across North America. Phone number in more than 75 countries. Now it says 60, but I did not update the pitch deck beforehand. Also, we offer A to Z termination in more than 125 countries, toll-free, call, conference, SMS, MMS, and more. So We offer hosted PBX function, and also we offer SIP trunking directly. So if you use any PBX or any VoIP switch, you can use us as the SIP trunk provider only, or if you want to leverage or function, we have a vast range of hosted PBX features. It's asterisk based, so it's something that Fred is very aware of. Um, we offer services fully hosted, a lot of features, bring your own solution so you can bring a lot of devices and pay as you go. Speaking of devices, it's all the certified partner that we are working with. Pretty much, in fact, all these companies certify that VoIPms services is working with their devices and vice versa. We even have other partner like headset.com and APIS, which are APIS is a training where you can take SIP courses if you want to. And headset, it's just a headset provider. So it's technically not a SIP enable or not SIP enabled product. However, we have tested and have a good confidence with either their courses or their devices, and everywhere in between. PBX is a cell phone, IP phone. We have tested so many of them. I was talking about the hosted feature, so that's just a glance of what we are offering in terms of hosted PBX feature. So you can go online. It's weird because one of the thing that you said in your video is you say uh, what a good thing to have a click button in a presentation. I found it funny when you say that in one of your video. I was like, yeah, I shouldn't do that either, but I still do it. We offer also a SIP trunking, like I was mentioning, and we have more than 50 server located everywhere across the globe, from West Coast to East Coast in North America, France, United Kingdom, Amsterdam, and Australia. Lastly, about the service, we offer also an API with more than 300 function, and we keep adding a function to our API. So everything that you can do through VoIPms portal can be replicated. Pretty much everything can be replicated through our API. A little bit about our business model. It's a prepaid, pay-as-you-go, no contract, self-services. So you can just jump in, open an account, add funds, and start making calls. And we also offer free porting in Canada and United States. We also offer porting in international countries. However, most of the time there's a fee associated to it. Just reach out to us to know more about it. However, for Canada and United States, for local DIDs and toll free for porting, it's going to be free. Or team. This is VoIPms team. I'm the little guy in the middle. VoIPms, it's more than 50 employees located in Merida, Mexico, United States in New York, and Canada in Quebec. It's we're Montreal based at first. We offer technical support 24/7, chat ticket through email, and in French, English, and Spanish. We have a very large knowledge base where you can have all the provisioning information. If you want to set up any feature, you will have a wiki guide to explain how to do it. We also have a lot of tutorials on YouTube and a Facebook community group where you can discuss with other customers to, let's say, elaborate on any project that you have. My contact detail, feel free. You can reach out to me whenever you want. Here's my email and my direct toll-free number. If you have any question, just reach out to me. It's going to be a pleasure to answer all your questions. Any last word, Fred?
No, just looking forward to helping people whenever they need. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
It's my pleasure. I really appreciate your time today, and I wish we will have a other opportunity to collaborate together.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Have a nice day.